I ran away from home after my mother gave my room to my brother, and my parents never tried to find me. And now that they found out I'm rich, they found me and demand that I buy a house for him. It could make my brother uncomfortable, and I had to work to help give gifts and pay for his birthdays. All of this was absurd. And the rest of my family agreed when they found out. Especially my uncle, who argued with my parents for hours, and even made them promise to stop doing all this to me, which of course was a lie. And they continued doing it. What was my breaking point was when I turned 18, where as soon as I arrived home, my mother told me that I should empty my room and put my things in the basement because my brother wanted my room. I asked where I would sleep, and she said she didn't care, and if I wanted, I could sleep in the basement or on the couch. I tried to argue against this with my father, but he just said that I should obey my mother and refused to help me. After that, I couldn't take it anymore. In the middle of the night, I gathered as much as I could carry and left. I think my plan at the time was to make my parents sad about my absence and call me. But of course they never did. With my salary at the time, I could. You can now check if there's a part 2 by pressing share and more. I ran away from home after my mother gave my room to my brother, and my parents never tried to find me. And now that they found out I'm rich, they found me and demand that I buy a house for him. Already afford to rent an apartment, and that's what I did. At first it was sad and lonely since at the time, I didn't even have friends as I was practically forbidden to have a social life. But over time things got better. I managed to save enough money and years later rented a space to start a diner. Since my hobby at home was cooking, the only thing I could do without my parents complaining. The diner was a huge success, so I rented a larger space and then another space, and nowadays I have 9 branches. I'm not a billionaire, far from it, but I can say that nowadays I live a very secure life. However, somehow my parents found out about it, probably because I bought a house in the city where I lived. And since they work in the real estate business, someone must have mentioned with their last name that someone had bought a house. They called me to congratulate me, saying that after finding out that I had bought this house, they researched more about me and found out about the businesses too, and congratulated me. I found all of that very strange, and after all this time they were just strangers to me. So I just thanked them and planned to hang up after that. But out of nowhere they said, well, we'll send you some pictures of houses he showed interest into your cell phone. I asked what they were talking about, and they said it was obvious that if I had bought a house, the least I could do was buy one for my brother too. At that moment, the only thing I could do was laugh. I laughed a lot, and they seemed visibly confused. And that's when I started talking. I told them that I couldn't care less about my brother and what he wanted, or what was fair for my parents. They never looked for me all these years, even knowing that I had nothing when I left. And now they demand that I buy something for my brother, as they always did before. Before hanging up, I made it clear to them that I didn't care even if they ended up living on the street and they weren't to call me again. But of course they kept calling. I don't answer and I don't plan to. And honestly, I feel like it's the best I can do. I didn't need them all these years and I know I won't need them now. Do you think I did the right thing?